Hi, everybody. Today is Monday, January 6th, and our friend Larry Johnson is back with us. Welcome back, Larry.
I'm back, like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator.
Larry, let's get started with what's going on in the Kursk region again.
hmm
Ukrainian attack on Russians, and here is what Zelensky said. They're talking about an entire battalion, North Korean battalion. Here is what he said, what Zelensky said in his recent interview.
North Korea, just look at this example. 12,000 has arrived. Today, 3,800 killed or wounded. They can bring more. 30, 40,000, or maybe 500. They can bring many people. Why? Because they have order, autocracy, and everything. Can bring people together? No. Will Europe be able to build an army consisting of 2 to 3 million people? No, Europe will not want to do this. And for what? We definitely don't want a world war with you. There is no such purpose. There is no such purpose as gathering everyone. We do not want any war. We want to stop the Russians. And they invite North Korean soldiers. Invited. Their faces are burned. They themselves burn their faces. Those who cannot escape, injured or killed. There's a video. Everything I'm telling you, there is evidence of this. So that they are not recognizable, right? It means, what does it mean? It's out of values which share Europe. Europe counts. It means that those guys, they don't count. Rahuyut, it's count, yes? They don't count the number of people. That is the answer. Can they move more? Yes. Can they move dozens of thousands? Yes, because we see what they have.
Larry, what evidence is he talking about?
Riding that train high on cocaine. Casey Jones, start doing a little bit of Grateful Dead here, okay? Hey, do you know there are 20,000 Martians on the ground too? And let's not forget the 40,000 Venetians that showed up from the planet Venus. And then we got Uranus. He's just making shit up. There's no North Koreans. Oh, how do we know they're North Koreans? They burned their face. How do you know what they looked like before they burned their face? Oh, we have pictures. Show us the pictures. Oh, can't. Top secret. Yeah, I mean, all this was a CIA fabrication, this entire story. Fabricated to convince that, oh my God, Russia's doing bad. Russia is such desperate straits that they need help from the North Koreans because they ain't got enough people. They're short of, oh my God, the Ukrainians who are at a deficit, an 8-to-1 deficit. For every 8 artillery shells that the Russians fire, they've got 1. But nonetheless, boy, they are killing Russians right and left. Bodies are stacking up. It's not true. So he's just, they're trying to create a story to get the West to intervene and maybe try to persuade Trump not to cut him off. But like I said, man, cue up Jerry Garcia, the Grateful Dead, with the Casey Jones song, Riding That Train High on Cocaine, because that's what Mr. Zelensky's doing.
The way that the fight is going on in Ukraine on the battlefield, and they're trying to attack this. They're trying to get along. They're trying to continue this incursion in the Kursk region, which doesn't make sense. Which didn't make sense in the first time they did that. And right now they're trying to do the same. What's the main goal right now?
They just keep the presence in Kursk until Trump's inaugurated, and then try to hope that they can use that to persuade Trump to continue the war. The body count that's piling up for Ukraine is astronomical. They crossed this last week, so into the new year, the Russian Ministry of Defense now reports more than 1 million killed and wounded, more than 1 million casualties on the part of Ukraine. Now that, I think that number's grossly understated. I think the number's much closer to 1.5, 1.6 million. But they note that 60% of those casualties, because that 1 point, like 1.1 million since the start of the special military operation, 60% of that has taken place in the last 12 months. It is so Ukrainians are dying at a greater, faster pace. Part of that is they are outgunned. Part of it is you got untrained personnel showing up that have no idea what they're doing. And we're not even beginning to talk about desertions. This is just people that killed and wounded. The reports out of Kursk are that they got so many, in Sudzha, they've got so many dead, they haven't been able to evacuate them, so they're stacking them up in the basements of some of these houses. Thank God it's winter. Oh, Jesus, could you imagine if it was, June? Flies would be, hovering over that. There'd be a black cloud of flies from just decaying corpses. At least with the cold temperatures, it's like being in an icebox. This is just awful. The Ukrainians tried to break through, launch an offensive yesterday, and they just got wiped out. It's on video. You can see it online. They're going nowhere fast.
Is Donald Trump capable of convincing Zelensky? Because in the same interview that I played a part of the interview, he said that one of the main, if they go after some sort of negotiations, there has to be a guarantee for Ukrainians to join NATO. How is that going to play out with Donald Trump?
Yeah, they're not going to get a NATO offer. I think Trump has the ability, whether he'll do it or not. Tells Zelensky real clear. Cut a deal now. Shut the hell up. Or if you keep going this way, hey, we're cutting you off. You're getting no more money, and you will not get a visa to the United States. You can go screw yourself. Good luck finding a place to stay and be safe. On the other hand, be a good boy. We'll set you up in California where you have ample access to cocaine. And, you can, sniff your brains out. You can make him a deal he can't refuse. But, Trump has zero leverage over Putin, has a lot of leverage over Zelensky.
But how about, do you think that Donald Trump would put an end to the conflict, Larry? Many people are doubting right now. There is a lot of doubts, hesitations, and about what Donald Trump would do in Ukraine with Keith Kellogg and all those proposals which doesn't make sense to anybody in Russia, at least.
Yeah. Well, again, Trump has limited options. What's he going to do? Send more weapons? Okay. To who? Ukraine does not have a whole line of guys standing back saying, put me in, coach. I'm ready to play. I just don't have any football pads on. Oh, I don't have any ammunition. Give me a gun. Let me go. No, they don't have any of that. They're desperately trying to round up people that are just alive. And some of the reports coming out, they've got one guy was having a heart attack, and they're trying to put him on the front line. Another guy is mentally ill, hearing voices, seeing visions. So even if Trump comes in and says, okay, Putin, we're going to show you, we're doubling down. We're going to send them every last damn HIMARS and Patriot missile we have. We're going to give them every javelin. We're going to empty our shelves. We're going to give it all to them. And what are they going to do with it? It's like, you're a man who's been in combat. You've had both arms blown off. You don't have any prosthetics. And we're going to give you a bag of apples to eat. Good luck. How are you going to get the bag open? You got to tear it open with your teeth and then try to eat one with, you need hands and arms to reach out and grab the apple and eat it. They don't have the equivalent of hands and arms to take that equipment and use it in any kind of a way that would make any difference with respect to the trajectory of this war. As I come back, Trump has no leverage. So he said, we're going to double down. Putin will go, great, do so. Just more shit for us to blow up. That's our goal. We're going to demilitarize Ukraine. We'll demilitarize you in the process. And they will. Because we're already, I think, they don't make the HIMARS anymore, or the ATACMS. They don't make ATACMS missiles anymore. So we're out of ATACMS. I'm not sure how many HIMARS are made, but it's not many. The number for Patriot missiles is 550 a year. So go ahead. Threaten, double down, increase, do whatever you want, Don. If I'm Putin, go ahead, do it. No, you knock yourself out, dude. You're not going to change. We're going to continue to crush the Ukrainians, and we're going to crush NATO in the process.
Do you see the possibility of having the conflict in Ukraine continuing through 2026?
No, not at all. It's unsustainable for you. Ukraine can't sustain losses like this. They're into a downward spiral. And we've seen, go back and look, more than a year ago, how slow, the Ukraine's ability to stop or to limit Russian advances every day. And Russia was not going to take very risky maneuvers and put troops at risk. That was one of the reasons for its slow pace. Compare that with what's going on now. They're moving at lightning speed. They're taking usually a village or two a day. They're surrounding and enveloping Pokrovsk. And again, this process is only going to accelerate because it's like a feedback loop. When you don't have trained troops, you put troops on the front lines that don't know what to do. They don't know what to do. They get defeated. They fall back. So you've got to quickly find more new untrained troops. And with each iteration, they get worse and worse and worse. I described it, more than a year ago. There was this movie featuring Michael Keaton, in which he was under pressure from his wife to do lots of different things. So he came up with the idea, hey, I'll copy myself. And he found a way to genetically reproduce himself. But the problem was, with each copy he made, there was an imperfection in it. It was not as good as the first. And by the time he got to the fourth or fifth copy, he was retarded, not able to do anything. That's the Ukrainian army. They are in a full retardation stage. Mentally, physically incapable of conducting themselves as a trained military outfit. Yeah, though they got some very brave people, and they do have a few people in there that know what they're doing, but they're dying or they're getting wounded, and Ukraine has no way to reverse that. The only way they could reverse it is if they interject NATO troops into the conflict. You interject NATO troops, all of a sudden you're talking about World War III. Russia is not going to step back and face another Western invasion like they did from the Nazis in 1941. Ain't going to happen.
If NATO do that, in your opinion, if they do that and they join Ukraine in the fight, do you think that Russia would be alone?
You mean, does Russia have allies it could call upon?
Yeah.
Yeah. In that case, they could call upon North Korea. They could call upon the Chinese, but they won't need to. I think candidly, Russia is more than capable of handling anything that NATO wants to throw at it. Yeah, on paper you can say, "Oh, NATO's got this, 2 million man, whatever." Or, good luck deploying them. You got a bunch of purple rainbow-colored hair nitwits staffing many of these militaries. They're not really capable of good interoperability. They each claim, the British have their Challenger tank, and the Germans have their Leopard tank, and it just what the special military operation has exposed is the tremendous limitations on the part of Western military equipment. That's one of the lessons of the last 3 years.
I don't know if you watched Anthony Blinken's interview with the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken, in which he's talking about the way that the United States prepared Ukraine to fight Russia. Here is what he said.
First, if you look at the trajectory of the conflict, because we saw it coming, we were able to make sure that not only were we prepared and allies and partners were prepared, but that the Ukraine was prepared. We made sure that well before the Russian aggression happened, starting in September, the Russian aggression happened in February, starting in September and then again in December, we quietly got a lot of weapons to Ukraine to make sure that they had in hand what they needed to defend themselves, things like Stingers, javelins that they could use, that were instrumental in preventing Russia from taking Kyiv, from rolling over the country, erasing it from the map, and indeed pushing the Russians back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a delusional asshole. Yeah, please don't excuse my language. He's despicable. The United States and NATO have been working since 2008 at least to arm, equip, and train the Ukrainians to destroy Russia. In the aftermath of the Maidan and then the debacle at Debaltseve, where they came up with Minsk II as a quick way to try to salvage the Ukrainian army, which again every year, 2008 to 2014, NATO was conducting military exercises with Ukrainian forces. There was training going on. There was equipping going on. Don't pretend that this all of us know. Oh, in the 6 months before the invasion, we started giving them stuff. Nonsense. Started way before that. And they had to come up with Minsk II to try to save the Ukrainians. And in that period from 2015 for the next 7 years or 6 years up to December of 2021, NATO invested hundreds of millions of dollars, if not more than $1 billion, in equipping and training the Ukrainian army so that it was capable, at least on paper, of defeating Russia. That was the plan. Now, throughout this, what Blinken fails to mention is Putin made a sincere effort to try to reach a negotiated settlement with Joe Biden, and Biden initially accepted it, and then it was Blinken and others, no, we're not going to limit ourselves to that. They wanted the damn war. They don't care about the Ukrainian people. Let them die. It's no relative of theirs. They don't have to worry about any grieving widows. Screw the Ukrainians. That's their attitude. So, and again, he presents this mythology. Oh, Russia was going to take Kiev, and Russia was going to eliminate and erase Ukraine as a country. At no time, ever, did Putin or any of his generals say that, state that, write that, or imply that. They made it very clear from the outset their goal was to demilitarize Ukraine and denazify it. What does that mean? Demilitarize. Get the military, cut off foreign military aid. Reduce the size of the Ukrainian security force. Make sure it does not have an offensive capability capable of attacking Russia. Cut ties with the foreigners. And get the damn Nazis out of the government. All the Banderites that are walking around wearing swastikas. Get them out of the government. That's what Russia meant. And they thought they had a deal cut at the end of March of 2022 to do that. And the West interceded with Zelensky and said, "Oh no, tell the Russians to go pound sand, keep up the fight. We got your back." Yeah, and Zelensky's now learned you can't trust the West. Oh, I'm not sure he's learned. He's still in there. Give us more, give us more. The West can give them everything they have in their arsenal. It's not going to make a bit of difference on the ground.
What's so amazing about the way that Antony Blinken tries to picture the conflict is that Russia wanted to subsume all of Ukraine, that we didn't let them to do that. This
Yeah,
is
it's not,
first
not
assumption.
true.
Every
No.
time he's talking about this,
Yes.
each and every interview he's talking about this.
It's a talking point. It's not true. But, say it enough, it becomes true.
And the second point is they don't talk about negotiation. They had each and every opportunity to talk with Russians.
Yeah.
And
Well,
the interviewer is asking, why did you not negotiate with Russia?
no, we should have asked, why did you sabotage the negotiations with Russia? And Russia's made it very clear now what its negotiating position is. Ukraine must withdraw all forces from Zaporizhia, Kherson, Donetsk, and Luhansk immediately. Cease fire immediately. And decline, and swear off joining NATO. Then we'll have something to talk about. Otherwise, war's going to continue. Russia doesn't need a damn thing from the West. They can continue pressing on. They're not losing the war, they're winning.
The European Union, the European countries are not doing great right now, and it seems the situation is getting worse as Donald Trump takes office. And do you think that what would happen to Europe and their policy in Ukraine, and what would happen to their domestic policy under Donald Trump?
Well, what is, can you tell me what their policy is towards Ukraine? Yeah,
Continuation of the war in Ukraine.
Well, so they say that, but then, who's got the money to pony up for it? Germany? What you have is a growing fragmentation of the European Union between those who favor war, those who oppose war. And this is all taking place at a time when they are politically weak. Look at Keir Starmer in the United Kingdom. If it was a choice between voting for Keir Starmer or a bag of squirrel poop, I bet the bag of squirrel poop would get more votes than Starmer. Macron in France, equally unpopular. Trudeau in Canada, albeit not part of Europe, but still part of that whole lash up, he's gone. He's resigning. So you don't have anybody with any kind of great political clout that's saying, yeah, by God, we're going to step up and give him more. We're going to fight Russia to the death. In fact, they're going out of their way to piss on each other. So I guess Poland's taken over the European, the chair of the European Union or European Council or whatever. Hungary's been in that position for the last month or so. Now Poland gets to do it. And Poland's saying to Hungary, screw you, stay away. Don't come to the open the ceremony. I mean, it's just, hey, you ever feel the love? Oh, we're all in this together. So, Romania's splitting off. Then Austria, the left-leaning, these words don't have any meaning anymore. The left-leaning government that favored war, and the right wing who favors getting out of war, is now the right wing's taken over. So you've got a movement, to, sort of an anti-war party that's conservative, anti-immigrant in Austria. You've got that in Hungary. You've got that in Slovakia. You may have that in Romania. You've got it in Georgia, even though they're not part of the European Union. But it's still that was the European Union's effort and the West's effort to bring them in. Maloney in Italy is sort of doing her own thing. France is weak, UK's weak, Germany's weak, economically in particular. They're not going to do anything. They're going to sit there and make speeches, and they're going to watch Ukraine sink beneath the waves.
Larry, I talked with Professor Richard Wolff and Michael Hodson. Both of them believe that the war in Ukraine is a war on bricks, and they wanted to weaken Russia, then go after China. And here is what Antony Blinken said, that which makes sense when we think of the idea that these two professors have and the way that Antony Blinken is talking about containing China.
Great example. Let's talk about China for a minute. I think President Trump was right during his first administration in identifying some of the challenges posed by China. No country has the capacity that China does to reshape to its own will and designs the international system that we and many others put in place after the Second World War. It has the military power, the economic power, the diplomatic power to do that in ways that no other country does. And we also know that many of the practices it's engaged in have been grossly unfair to our workers, to our companies, undercutting them, driving them out of business. So I think he was right in identifying that problem. Where I would disagree with the approach he took, and where I would commend to him the approach that we pursued, is we're so much more effective in dealing with the challenges posed by China when we're working closely with other countries. So if you're trying to take on the China problem, but at the same time you're taking actions that in one way or another alienate allies and partners, you're likely to be less effective in dealing with China. When we took office, the European Union was on the verge of signing a major trade agreement with China. They were hedging. They weren't sure if they could count on the United States. We'd had real challenges in the relationships in the preceding 4 years, and they were hedging toward China. So were many other countries. We were really on the decline when it came dealing with China diplomatically and economically. We've reversed that. And so I think the difference is the way we've approached it is we've sought to bring other countries in to dealing with this challenge. When we're dealing with China's economic practices that we don't like, and we're doing it alone, we're 20% of world GDP. When we've aligned Europeans, key allies and partners in the Asia Pacific, we're suddenly 40, 50, 60% of world GDP, something that China can't ignore. And again, what I've seen over these last 4 years is a convergence in the approach taken to China with Europe and with Asia that we've not seen before. And I know it's succeeding because every time I meet with my Chinese counterpart, Wang Yi, the foreign minister, he inevitably spends 30, 40 minutes, 60 minutes complaining about everything we've done to align other countries, to build this convergence in dealing with things that we don't like that China's pursuing. So to me, that is the proof point that we're much better off through diplomacy.
Do you see the bigger picture that these guys are thinking of in their mind and in their ideology?
Again, he's delusional. He's not paying attention. He's talking about something that may have been the situation 3 years ago, but it's not the situation now. Russia and China are united. It is not a marriage of convenience. Let's call it's a genuine love relationship. They're united diplomatically, economically, politically. There are still many analysts and pundits and so-called experts in the West that insist that this is just a temporary situation, marriage of convenience, that Russia's just a boil on a gnat's ass with respect to China, that China is the big driver, that Russia's irrelevant, et cetera, et cetera. China has the largest manufacturing capability in the world, hands down. It is becoming one of the most innovative scientifically and technologically places in the world, too. Yeah, they went through a period where it was copycat international and they could do knockoffs of anything and everybody. But now they're starting to do their own thing, and they've come up with actually their own chip. And they've created a phone that's a competitor to Apple through Huawei. They need energy. Oh, God, who has some energy? Where could we find that? I know, Russia. Hey, it's right on their border. Russia's building Russia and China have agreed to build pipelines. And so they don't just have to move it via either, a ship-going a container ship with carrying oil, or over trucks, but via pipeline. So all of that is definitely going to make a big difference in terms of this relationship. And then what both China and Russia have learned over the last 3 years is the United States is dangerous. The United States is a criminal country intent on destroying each of them. And the United States is unprincipled. So to that end, Russia and China have been quick to cultivate the global South. Oh, yeah, the United States has got Europe all behind us. Yeah, let's talk about all the great natural resources Europe has. Zero. The natural resources are in the global South. And that's where China and Russia are cultivating ties and bringing these countries into the BRICS nations. And BRICS right now exceeds, the top 4 economies in the world are United States, China, India, Russia. China, India, Russia comprise, right now, the 3 of the top 5 members of BRICS. And BRICS is continuing to grow. And they're bringing in other countries, including Saudi Arabia. Turkey insists it wants to be a part. Iran is getting in there. And Iran, with its oil, can be a power. Right now, Iran is suffering, but it's been isolated. And now what BRICS is creating is an alternative. So I would disagree with the good professors that this war is not about destroying BRICS. However, the West is going, I would agree with them that the West wants to do everything in its power to try to destroy BRICS. And I predict that in 2025, they'll be engaged with covert action and targeted at Brazil in particular to try to create some disruption and throw BRICS off. But I think the momentum is such that they're going to continue moving forward. Russia and China, this is not a temporary relationship. This is a permanent relationship.
If you look at the way he was talking about Europe and China, they didn't let Europe to have deals with China the same way they did to Russia. They cut the Nord Stream pipeline. They want to disconnect Europe from Russia and China. It doesn't matter to them. It's a game for them.
Sure,
it doesn't matter how Europe and European countries are suffering from these sort of policies.
I mean, do the Americans give a shit about what happens to the Europeans? No. We could care less. We care about as much for them as we do for the Ukrainians. Look, got more than 1 million dead and wounded Ukrainians, and we don't care. Pile up a bunch of European bodies on top of that, we don't care. Wake up, world. If you think the United States cares, you are kidding yourself. We don't. We do not care. If you trash your economy, if your people suffer, if pensioners in Great Britain have to go without heat in a cold winter, we don't care. Send that money to Ukraine. We got to work. We have to weaken Russia and China at any cost, and that's where the United States is losing. It's lost control of the narrative. You can't tell that to people in the States. We're the best. We're the most handsome. We're the strongest. It's nonsense. But we keep lying to ourselves.
The other part of difficulties would be in the Middle East, Larry. Right now, the Iranian officials are talking.
That's an understatement. Okay. Yeah, there's this little problem. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. When you look at the Iranian officials, they're talking about they're prepared to talk with the United States. On the other hand, they're totally prepared to fight a larger war with the United States and Israelis.
Yeah.
It's on the part of the United States and Israelis to decide about that. How do you see the Trump administration, not administration, the Trump people, the Trump team right now?
Well, they've got themselves wrapped up in a false narrative and false assumptions. The narrative and assumptions are this: Iran is a leading sponsor of terrorism in the world. Iran is under the strict control of the mullahs, and it has the people are seething with anger to overthrow the mullahs. All they need is just a little bitty push, and that it's Iran's so weakened militarily. All we got to do is just hit them, and they'll collapse. They'll come apart at the seams. That's all we got to do. That's the Western view. That's the Israeli view. Maybe that assumption's correct. I don't think it is. I see there's a different, let's assume the alternative. Let's assume that, in fact, Iran's suffering some under the sanctions, but they've got some alternatives now opening up with BRICS. The relationships that they're developing with Russia and with China means that they're not, confined to the United States market or even the European market. Their air defense capability is quite good. Their nuclear processing facilities are well protected and buried deep underground and out of harm's way from U.S. attacks or Israeli attacks. And that if, in fact, Israel or the United States decides to attack Iran, Iran will be able to thwart that attack and then launch counterstrikes in Israel and against U.S. bases in the Middle East. And then all of a sudden we're looking at the prospects for a broader regional war that could bring in other countries like Russia and China. So which assumption you want to go with? The problem we have is the Trump people are going with the former assumption that Iran's weak and we can do whatever we want and bully them. If they follow through with that and pursue that, I think it'll end up being the destruction of Donald Trump's presidency. I think I can see a scenario in which Iran beats the United States. At least, it's going to have the appearance of victory, because the United States will not conquer Iran, would not achieve an ouster of the mullahs, and would not achieve an Iranian surrender. So that would be a victory for Iran.
What's so difficult to understand is that Netanyahu thinks that a direct war with Iran would benefit him.
Mm-hmm.
How is that going to benefit Israel, Larry? We know that Iran is capable of hitting Israel, and we know their missile capabilities. And
Wait, you know that, but the Israelis don't know that. That's the point. That's the point. The assumptions. You always got to deal with the assumption, because the assumptions color how you view the world. And the Israelis believe, at least Netanyahu and that crowd sincerely believe, that they have weakened Iran, that they have no air defense, that now's the time to strike. They can go in and take them out, wipe them out. That's all we got to do. They keep talking that way. They believe it. Remember, Netanyahu believed all we got to do go into southern Lebanon, we'll hit Hezbollah and, kill their leadership and use those pagers to blow up, and they'll flee across the Litani River. And Gallant goes, no, don't do that. That's not going to happen. What happened? Gallant was right. Netanyahu was wrong. The assumptions that are guiding the decisions with respect to Iran are wrong. But they don't care. They will do what they want to do until it blows up in their face, and then they have to come back and go, God, that didn't work out like we thought it would.
it seems that there is a civil war going on in Lebanon between the Lebanese government and Hezbollah, because so far Israelis didn't respect the ceasefire. They're attacking more than 1,000 times. They attack Lebanon so far, and right now Hezbollah is talking about they're gonna respond to Israel
Mhm.
in before the 60 days coming to an end.
Yeah. Yeah. They will. This is. I'm not sure it's call it a civil war between Lebanon, the Lebanese army, and Hezbollah. The West the Washington in particular has been eager to get the Lebanese army to attack and take on Hezbollah, but I think the Lebanese officials recognize Hezbollah is still a formidable force and still enjoys a large measure of support. And this Israel does not have unlimited military resources, and it pretends that it does. It pretends that it continued to fight in the West Bank, fight in Gaza, fight in Lebanon, in Syria, fight in Lebanon, and not suffer any consequences. That's just not true. The logistic strain alone that it puts on the Israeli army is significant. And they have just like Ukraine, they have no quick solution to that. People always forget the logistics. You can sit in the comfort of your home and think, oh man, I can run it. I can run a marathon in 2.5 hours. It'd be easy. I just go out and run it. Then actually go try to do it. Well, you find out if you haven't trained, you're cramping up by the 8-mile point. You're no way you're going to make the 26 miles. You simply, imagining it is one thing, doing it's another. And, he's in the imagining state. Yeah, we're going to destroy Iran and we're going to push Hezbollah out of southern Lebanon. Now comes time, do it. And the doing is where it's all of a sudden going to get ugly for him.
If we assume that, let's say tomorrow Netanyahu's gone and he's not in power in Israel.
Well, he's got prostate cancer. That may come true. Well,
that's why I'm asking this question. Yeah. Is there anybody in Israel capable of manipulating the United States and the policymakers in the United States as Netanyahu has been for many years?
None spring to mind right now. I think Netanyahu is a really pretty pernicious figure. However, there are others that could step to the forefront. This is one of those things that if the ultra extremists like Ben Gvir and Smotrich become the face of Israel, that's going to really alienate a lot of people in the States. They like Gallant, Yoav Gallant, or Benny Gantz. A lot of American Jews love Benny Gantz. More like us. Looks like us, talks like us, but, we'll see. It's just, I said, the recipe for Israel is not one of long-term stability. It points to long-term instability, just the opposite.
And as you mentioned, Ben Gvir and even Gallant, I would say, and Smotrich, these people do not have a hybrid personality as Netanyahu has, and he knows the United States. He knows better than anybody.
Well, he spent a lot.
I would argue even better than Donald Trump.
he lived in the United States, went to high school in the United States, as I understand it. So yeah, he's sort of part American. He understands it. We'll see. There is it's an unhealthy relationship between the United States and Israel. It's a codependent relationship. And we're really bad for each other. We're like one spouse that's addicted to cocaine, the other's addicted to alcohol, and each buys the other what they need to stay intoxicated. And for long, they got their livers are gone, and they're psychotic, and it's not healthy.
It seems that there are some negotiations going on in Qatar right now.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that they're capable of cutting a deal between Hamas and Israel right now, and with all the difficulties that we are witnessing in that region? And is Turkey supporting that?
No, I don't think there's any prospects for a deal. Hamas is willing to make a deal. Hamas is willing to negotiate. Israel isn't. The deal Israel wants is for the Palestinians to die and go away. As far as Erdogan goes, he wants to be the big man in the Middle East. He wants to be the show, the new kingmaker. And so, if negotiations with between Hamas and Israel make that more of a reality, he'll do that. If sabotaging the negotiations makes that reality possible, he'll do that. He's not guided by any kind of moral principle.
But two pipelines, one coming from Qatar, the other one coming from Russia to Turkey, and then go to Europe.
Mm-hmm.
For those projects in Turkey, do you think the future and the way they're trying to manage their policies toward Israel, are they gonna make some sort of compromise with Israel, or those two projects doesn't have anything to do with any sort of compromise and cooperation with Israel?
No, it has nothing to do with Israel. Look, any pipeline coming out of Qatar's got to figure out how to get through Syria. And the problem is Turkey's in no place to impose any kind of order in Syria. Syria is going to be a chaotic mess for the foreseeable future. The various Sunni tribes that occupy the central portions of Syria, they're not under the control of HTS or al-Nusra or ISIS. But, one of the problems with HTS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, is comprised largely of foreigners. They're not native Syrians, so they're not, it's not like they're going back to one particular tribal unit or another. They're Uzbekis, Turkmenis, Tajikis, Dagestanis, Chechens, Uyghurs. They're not Syrians. So and from that standpoint, they've got little incentive to try to bring the country together. It's really sort of a facade, a Western-backed facade. And there's a two-edged sword here. As long as Bashar al-Assad was in office, the Syrian intelligence service functioned, and they maintained some control over the country. Well, the Israelis had penetrated through Mossad the Syrian intelligence service. They had assets that were giving them information. Hey, the Iranians are going to be providing a shipment of weapons from point A to point B on such and such date, and they're going to be stored at this location. Great. And Israel then goes and blows it up. Now you don't have that institution, or the institution that's in place for HTS. They don't control the country in the same way that Assad did, by any stretch. So now Iran is going to go through some networks that are not readily identifiable to Israel. So, this notion that, Hezbollah's cut off and they're not going to get any more shipments, nonsense. Smuggling has been a centuries-old activity in that part of the world. And the smugglers have lived on long after governments come and go.
The foreign minister of Germany, Annalena Baerbock, went to Syria.
Yeah,
I don't know
great.
if you saw the pictures that she was blurred from
She went to the Volodymyr Zelensky School of Clothing Design to select her outfit.
What does Germany want in Syria, Larry? Is that related to Russian presence in Syria?
Beats the hell out of me. I mean, seriously. What a useless trip. They want to get Russia out of Syria. Russia wants to get out of Syria. Remember 5 weeks ago, what was everybody saying? Oh, this is a major defeat for Russia. Oh, Russia's fleeing its base. Its ships are pulling out of Tartus. Oh, they're fleeing the air base. Was any of that true? No, it was a lie. Russians are sitting back, and the Turks are saying, oh, please stay, don't go. HTS, Jelani, please stay, don't go. Germany can go and say, hey, we want to get rid of the Russians. The Russians will say, God, we want to get rid of us. Let's get us out of here. This is not our mess. It's your mess. Have at it. I honest to God, don't know what Baerbock thought she was achieving, other than getting disrespected, as she deserved to be disrespected. You saw all the photographs with the Syrian officials. They blocked her, blurred her image, basically erased her. She wasn't there. You go from Jelani wearing, his headdress and the robes and fierce and vicious. Now he's all suited up with a Brooks Brother tie and shoes, and he looks like that's all West End. But he doesn't control anything. Meanwhile, some of his followers are out there killing Alawites, Christians, and Shia. So the violence within Syria is continuing, it's increasing, not diminishing.
I think Syria going to be a huge problem for the next 4 or 5, 10 years to come.
Well, problem for who? It's not going to be a problem for Russia. It's not going to be a problem for Iran. It's not their problem.
They're out, yeah.
It's a problem for Turkey. It's a problem for Israel. It's a problem for Iraq. It's a problem for Jordan. And it's a problem for Lebanon. Good luck. It'll be destabilizing for a lot of those countries.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Larry, for being with us today. Great pleasure as always.
Yeah, maybe sometime you can bring me on. We'll talk about something cheerful.
It doesn't happen to geopolitics.
I know. No, nobody wants to talk about the peach cobbler recipe. Okay. Thanks, Lima. Have a great day, man.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.